Hello, this is Todd Luck, and this is a review of Savage Sword of Conan #2 from Titan Comics. This is out right now at comic retailers and also available digitally on Amazon/Comixology. And I am happy to report the production issues they had with the first issue of Savage Sword are improved in this one. We'll get around to that. This is going to be a non-spoiler review. I am a longtime Conan fan, and I want you guys to experience this for yourself. If something really jumps out at me story-wise, I will discuss it in a non-spoiler way, but most of the time I just talk about my general feelings about the story and talk about just the plot in general. So if you want somebody to spoil it for you, there's plenty of other reviews. So now we have two Conan comics from Titan. One is the regular size color ongoing series Conan the Barbarian, which is serialized, and then there is Savage Sword of Conan, which we're about to discuss. They are both mature reader titles, which means that there is a possibility you may see some higher levels of violence than you would see in a normal comic, as well as bare female nipples. And there has been a lot more graphic violence and nudity in the Conan the Barbarian ongoing series, particularly in that second plot line. They've just been telling a much darker story in that series. As we established last time, this new Savage Sword is the exact same size as the old Savage Sword magazine from Marvel. And the first issue was an oversized 80-page issue. This second issue is 64 pages, which is going to be the standard length. The new one still uses much thicker paper than the original Savage Sword, which you're looking at right there. So it makes it still a much thicker magazine. But unlike that oversized 80-page issue, I didn't really see many copies that had dimples on the staples. So I think this 64-page format is going to work well. Another reason I didn't find creasing around the staples on this new issue is that the cover stock is much thicker. It's much nicer, and honestly is a very impressive paper stock. It's very shiny, as you can see. And in all of their infinite wisdom, they did decide to do a black back cover, which means, yes, you are going to get fingerprints on it. It's just one of those things. And here's a comparison of how the cover printed in the advertisements versus the final cover. And I got to tell you, the thing that really surprised me when I looked on the shelf was just how much those colors popped. Yeah, it's darker, but it brings out the contrast so you can see more of what's going on in that cover. And I think it looks really good. And you can compare it to how dark and muted that Joe Jusko's cover for issue 1 printed compared to this new one that just really pops for the second issue. I gotta tell you, I'm very impressed by this cover stock. It really went above and beyond, and I love Joe Jusko, guys. I would be totally down if they wanted to reprint that cover using this new cover stock. I think that would look really awesome. So the cover artist for this issue is Dave Dorman, who I know best for doing Star Wars covers in the 90s for Dark Horse Comics. And my favorite one is on your left, Crimson Empire #1. I love that cover to death, but of course he's done other things, like the covers for the Batman Tarzan miniseries, which also came out in the 90s from Dark Horse. Now, I haven't kept up with his work since the 90s, but I gotta say, he's still got it. This is a very impressive cover. This is Conan fighting a Lovecraftian creature, and Lovecraft creatures are very disturbing looking, and they smell, and you can almost just get that from the cover, right? I can smell the inhuman odor coming from this thing, and it's just a very creepy cover, very appropriate. Now, this creature doesn't really appear in the story, but it does definitely capture the spirit of the creatures that you'll see inside. And of course, doing a Lovecraft tribute is very appropriate. Howard was greatly influenced by Lovecraft. Robert E. Howard, creator of Conan, was a pen pal of Lovecraft's, and he had actually several stories that are considered part of the Cthulhu mythos. And in turn, Lovecraft actually mentioned the Serpent Men of Volusia in some of his stories, like Haunter of the Dark. And if you would like to see a Conan comic that directly crosses over with Lovecraft, check out Conan the Savage, issue 4. In this issue, Conan and Belit go to the same city that was in Lovecraft's The Mountains of Madness. And I just want to throw out a recommendation for Conan the Savage. It always had excellent art and outstanding design work, and because it came at the end of Marvel's run, a lot of people don't know about that magazine. All right, so back to our new Savage Sword of Conan number 2. We open it up and see this infinitely readable, nice looking map of Conan's time. And it looks great, especially compared to last issue. Now, when we get to the top, we see the Nemedean Chronicles is on this black backdrop. And I think the font is just a little bit too small and a little bit too thin to be easily readable here. But that is a very common, very minor flaw. And then we have the table of contents, and for some mysterious reason, it doesn't count the first 2 pages of the magazine, but beyond that, it is accurate, and it does look fantastic, and you'll notice that the blacks on here printed very well. And that is great because the opening of the first story has so much black on the page, so it's very, very good that they fixed that problem with the printing the black that they had last issue, where not enough ink was getting on the page. And it does look like the pinups printed well. If there's something missing here from the printing, I can't tell it. They all look like what I would expect them to look like. And they're all in different art styles. And I got to tell you, that Solomon Kane pinup in the back is amazing. I love that Solomon Kane pinup. So the opening of the story is very dark, and I think the artist here does a decent job of it. But if they're going to do stories like this, I really wish they could get like a master of darkness to do it, right? Like Tom Mandrake or John Bolton, or if you're looking for a more recent artist, like Roy Allen Martinez. Check out my reviews of Monster Men from American mythology. He just carves images out of darkness. I think he would make a really good Conan artist. And so the opening sequence is Conan digging himself out of his own grave. Yes, this is very reminiscent of Kraven's Last Hunt in Spider-Man, but it is a very effective scene. Now, you'll notice that once we stop doing those absolute blacks we saw at the beginning, the artwork does get a bit sketchy, right? It has a very kind of loose line work feel to it, and shadows are done through a series of lines. Now, I don't have an objection to that, just in theory, but I will say it does get a little bit distracting later on, especially that first splash page where they introduce the monsters. I'm not going to spoil that for you, but I just found that line work to be very distracting. But artistic experimentation is what Savage Sword is about, so I do admire him for at least trying this art style. And I will say for the story, it is by Jim Zub. And yeah, I know he's already writing the ongoing series, but Savage Sword lets him do a story that's self-contained that doesn't fit in his larger storylines that he's doing in Conan the Barbarian. And Conan does encounter some Lovecraftian stuff, and I think that's fine. But what sticks out to me, and I'm not going to spoil this for you, but Jim Zub does something with the character that I haven't really seen before, or at least not done in this way. And I think that makes this a very unique and memorable story, especially the scene with the wolves. That one I felt like was a very, very well done scene. So along with 48 pages of Conan, you get 7 pages of the ongoing Solomon Kane backup story. And Patch Zurcher continues to do grayscale magic in this storyline. And it's basically, he's looking for a monster, and he does find one. There's no orientation for the new reader, so it really does depend on you buying that first issue. But it is solid, but it is very short, and it'll be interesting to see if they're able to bring this to a satisfying conclusion next issue. And yes, the chainmail letter column is in the back. And for some reason, it has some weird spaces. Every once in a while, you see that in the intro paragraph. I don't know what happened there, if that's human mistake or some kind of computer glitch. And yes, there appears to be a weird stain on this page, and I'm not sure why. That's the way it came. So anyway, you're getting all of this for just $7. And I gotta say, I'm very impressed. Not only did they fix the printing problems, but they went above and beyond with that thicker, glossy cover stock that looks great, and they absolutely didn't have to go that far, right? Because this is an industry that gives us less and charges us more. And for them to go out of their way to make this the best magazine they could is definitely deeply appreciated. I think Conan is in very good hands. I do recommend picking up the bi-monthly Savage Sword of Conan from Titan Comics. And definitely check out Conan the Barbarian as well, because they got Cole in there. And check out the free comic book day special because it teases some really exciting stuff. Good time to be a Conan fan. like and subscribe for more videos. And until next time, see ya.